Welcome into Sports Talk at the Stadium. We come to you from Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee, Florida, where Clemson defeated Florida State on Saturday night, 34-28. Our report is brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council. Well, the Tigers remain undefeated. They remain in control of their destiny as far as the ACC's Atlantic Division is concerned by holding on for a 34-28 win over Florida State in front of a near-capacity crowd at Doak Campbell Stadium. This was an energized, enthused group of Seminole fans supporting their team, thinking that maybe they can bring to an end the long losing streak to the Tigers. And from the outset, it looked like the Seminoles are going to give the Tigers a very tough fight all night long. And it was at the beginning, and it was at the end. The meat in the middle belonged to the Tigers, however, as they put the Seminoles almost to sleep, but they came back to life by dominating the fourth quarter. It made this game a little bit more interesting than it needed to be. But the Tigers won it, and as Dabo Swinney said afterwards, it's all about the winning. He doesn't care by how many. He doesn't care how they get it done, as long as they get the W. So the Tigers improved to 7-0. That's 13 straight wins for them, and that's 7 straight against Florida State. That's a record as far as Clemson is concerned against Florida State. And the Tigers notched their 10th straight 7-0 start in the school history and get ready for Syracuse next week at Clemson in a game that could very well decide the winner of the Atlantic Division. So from the start, Florida State jumped on the Tigers 7-0, took the opening drive, 9 plays, 75 yards, and it was a Jordan Travis 20-yard touchdown run. Florida State was up 7-0. Clemson came back later to tie the game with beautiful pass from DJ Uiagalelei to Antonio Williams, 59 yards, longest play of the season for the Tigers. Uiagalelei did a nice job avoiding a blitz, and he hit Williams in stride, and he took it the rest of the way, 7-7 at that point. Florida State came back, 15 plays, 93 yards. They put a linebacker, DJ Lundy, in at fullback, and he knocked it in from just outside the goal line for the touchdown to make it a 14-7 Florida State game. Tigers came back, 13 plays, 75 yards. This time it was Uiagalelei to Brenningstool, 7-yard touchdown pass. Tigers had to convert a 4th down on that drive to keep it going. And they tied it up at 14, and here we go, back and forth, back and forth. But the Tiger defense finally came up, got a stop, and Clemson went down, got a field goal, 46, make that 47 yards from Potter. Remember last year against Florida State, he missed 3 field goals, so you know he had to feel good about this one. Put the Tigers up 17-14, and that began the run of dominance for Clemson and allowed them to take over the ball game. They got a strip sack by Murphy at the Florida State 42-yard line. And then Shipley broke free for a run of 56 yards to the Florida State 6. And then Uiagalelei kept it himself, 5 yards for the touchdown. And that made it 24-14 at the half. So Dabo Swinney likes to talk about the 8-minute period, last 4 of the first half, first 4 of the second half. He had to like the way his team closed the first half with the final 10 points. And then the Tigers got the ball to open up the second half, and Shipley took it back, the kickoff, 69 yards to the 31. And then it was on the very next play, Uiagalelei to Allen for a 31-yard touchdown pass off a flea flicker, something that Swinney said they've been practicing and they had in their bag of tricks, and they were waiting for the right situation, the right place on the field, the right hash mark, and they got all that after that kickoff return, and Brandon Streeter called it, and they executed it perfectly, and the Tigers went up 31-14. At that point, they had scored on 5 straight possessions. They had scored 24 straight points, and, you know, again, fans started to file out of Doak Campbell Stadium at that point. Then Florida State failed on a fake punt from their own 34, maybe starting to feel some desperation. Clemson took the football, and Uiagalelei, a 5-yard touchdown run, was wiped out by a holding penalty on the freshman right tackle Blake Miller. Well, the Tigers would have gone up by even more. Instead, they had to settle for a 34-yard field goal. That holding penalty set them back. They couldn't recover. 34-14, but it's 27 straight points, and they scored on 6 straight possessions. Game looked well in hand, and then the Tiger defense took a snooze. Even though they had gotten 3 fourth down stops, including that fake punt, including a goal line stand, they kind of took their eye off the ball, and back came Florida State, a 6-yard touchdown pass with 9:22 left, made it 34-21. Clemson offense wasn't doing anything either during this time. And then 2:17 to go, Florida State scored again a 25-yard touchdown pass to make it 34-28. All of a sudden, those still in attendance are starting to get a little excited again for Florida State. Onside kick. Tigers covered that up. Spector did very nicely. Florida State was out of timeouts at that point. So they had burned their timeouts, and that was crucial. And Clemson could run out the clock, which they did. So it wasn't bittersweet. It wasn't a sad ending as far as Dabo Swinney is concerned. A win is a win. He was disappointed in how the defense played in the fourth quarter and how they just sort of, as he put it, they got soft on the screens. The defense lost focus. Tackling was poor. All of that happened there during that period of time. How dominant was Florida State? 169 yards to 46 to Clemson in the fourth quarter. That's how dominant they were. But they were far enough behind to where they couldn't catch up with the Tigers, and they were able to hold on for the victory. So some numbers, 460 yards for Florida State, 370 for Clemson, 254 through the air for the Seminoles, 203 for the Tigers, 206 on the ground for Florida State, 167 for Clemson. Clemson defense had a couple of sacks. Murphy was tremendous, 9 tackles for loss, 6 hurries. Uyangalele was 15 of 23, 203 yards. Another game with 3 touchdown passes for him. Shipley, and Swinney said going in they were going to need a big night out of Shipley. They got it, 121 rushing yards plus 48 receiving yards with 6 catches and the 69-yard kickoff return. Jordan Travis for Florida State, 24 of 42, 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Florida State might have had the better stats overall, especially because of that fourth quarter, but Clemson had built up a big enough lead where it wasn't going to be too much of a concern as long as they didn't mishandle that onside kick, which they took care of very, very nicely. They executed that well. So as far as some other things, Dabo Swinney said he thought Uyangalele was excellent. He thought Shipley would have to be big in this game if they were going to win. They needed him to be big, and he thought that he was. And he was especially pleased with the special teams. They had an excellent night. They averaged 46 yards on punts, 2 for 2 on field goals, had the 69-yard kickoff return, successfully covered the onside kick. So a lot of things to like for Clemson and a lot of things to clean up as well. The bottom line is they came into to Tallahassee. They continue to dominate this series after, of course, Florida State early on dominated the Tigers. And now they have the second longest winning streak in history against Florida State. The only one with a longer winning streak, Florida Gators, who at one time had an 8-game winning streak against the Seminoles. But Mike Norvell's doing a good job. This team is getting better. They are kind of chopping into Clemson a little bit in terms of catching up. Remember, last year was about a 2-touchdown difference. Now it was even less, and they did have the Tigers on their heels there for a little while, no question about it. Clemson defensively did not come out sharp, did not come out really with the right mindset. Miles Murphy told us after the ball game it took them a little while to settle in, and then they did, and then they dominated. They did a much better job defending the screens early on, the short passes, the short stuff gave the defense some problems early on, but then they adjusted and they got much better during that stretch there where the Tigers outscored them 27-0. So Clemson gets the victory here. No major injuries to speak of either. They welcome back practically everybody to the team tonight, so they are whole, they are healthy, and they are 7-0. And on a day when you saw teams like Alabama undefeated go down, Penn State undefeated go down, Southern Cal undefeated go down, Coastal Carolina undefeated go down. There are 9 undefeated teams left in the country now, and Clemson is one of them. Got to feel like they'll be even stronger in the top 4 of the AP poll when it comes out on Sunday afternoon. And I know that's not the poll that you want to be in the top 4, but that's a pretty good indicator of where the College Football Playoff Committee might go with their ranking when it comes out in a couple of weeks. So, so Clemson wins it. They have to hang on to do so after building a comfortable lead. Now they get ready for Syracuse at noon at Death Valley next Saturday, in a game that could, again, very much determine who wins that Atlantic division. Got to believe the Tigers will be pretty big favorites over the Orange, despite the fact that Syracuse is having a pretty special season thus far. Tomorrow night, Dabo Swinney will have his conference call with the media. We'll have that covered for you. And then on Monday night, I'll be joined by Chris Bergen, Pat Daniel. We'll take your phone calls and talk about what the Tigers did here tonight and what we can expect to see from them against Syracuse. Again, thanks for joining us. Clemson wins it here at Florida State. And we will see you back in Columbia on Monday night. Our coverage here brought to you by the South Carolina Beef Council.